Dadhood. Modern Dadhood podcast.
Shocktober.
What? Is that what we're calling it?
This is our Shocktober episode.
Oh, right.
I guess.
I'm all the way in for that.
Andy Flaherty, is it?
No.
Shoot. It's been a while. It's
That's my cousin.
Jehoshaphat.
That's my middle name.
Oh, right. Adam.
That's me.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I feel like we had a lot to talk about, but first we should just introduce the podcast for
Let's just do
for
that.
listeners.
This is a parenting podcast
called Modern Dadhood, and what we've always said, Mark, is that it's an ongoing conversation about the joys, challenges, and general insanity of being a dad in this moment.
All correct.
Like you had alluded to earlier, my name's Adam Flaherty. I'm a dad of two daughters who are 11 and 8.
My name is Mark Checkett, and I'm also a dad. I have twin boys who are 7.5 years old. Actually, hold the phone. Let's see. They're 7.
9.5 twelfths.
One of them is still very much awake reading. That's his thing. He stays up all too late every night.
Yeah.
Just lost in a book. And it's one of those things. It's one of those push-pull things, which we have a lot when we're parents, where I'm like, dude, go to bed. And it's frustrating. And at the same time, I'm like, look at him.
He's reading.
Look at him with his little reading light.
He loves to read.
And I love it so much, Yeah.
Does it make the morning difficult? Do either of them, when they do stay up late, do they have a real hard time getting up, getting ready for school? I do think for him, yeah, it backfires often. No, but the other one, man, it's been funny we've never, like, his head hits the pillow and he's out almost instantaneously. And then like clockwork, it's like 6:45, boom, I'm up, go downstairs, ready to start the day. Can I have breakfast, please? Now, one might think that twins would have similar traits and just habits and instincts, and not the case. One
might think, but
one would be wrong.
Would be wrong. At least in our case. It's the whole nature versus nurture thing. They grow up in the same household. They have the same set of parents, and they are definitely going not in opposite directions, but very much coming each into their own, and they can be super different in their approach towards like problem solving and the things that they love, the things that set them off, and then at the same time, they're almost exactly the same. They'll each yell out the exact same answer at the same phrasing at the same time, like it's very funny sometimes.
Well, speaking of setting them off, that's a great segue to introduce our guest for this episode. I had a great chat with Kirk Martin of the Calm Parenting podcast recently. We got into things like, what's really going on when your kids flip out and lose their minds, what's happening when maybe it feels like they're being really disrespectful to you, how as parents we can work to change our own habits in terms of the ways that we react when they're having huge feelings. And I learned a lot. His podcast is obviously phenomenal and very popular, a really great guy to chat with, very easy to talk to. And I'm so psyched for our listeners to hear it and for you to hear it, Mark, because you couldn't be there for that one.
Yeah, I was really bummed about that, but I was on vacay.
Yeah.
Took a little vacay.
I do want to hear the 15 to 30 word summary about it.
Well, you're really boxing me in.
But hold on. Before we do that, let's quickly say for listeners, especially for new listeners, that moderndadhood.com is sort of the hub for, where you can find all of our episodes. You can search by topic, by guest. They're all there. We're also on all the podcast platforms, and we would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing, leaving us a review so that other people can find out about us. The other thing, before we play the little sting and cue up the next section of the episode, is that we should announce that we won 3 Signal Awards.
Big news. Big news in modern dadhood history.
I think it's awesome.
Signal Awards. I think it's I'm still actually pretty blown away by the whole thing.
We're over 5 years in, and it really is humbling and exciting to get this kind of recognition. So for listeners who don't know, maybe haven't seen it on our social media or whatever, we were asking listeners to vote for us for the Listener Choice Awards, for the Signal Awards, in 2 categories. But we also were finalists in 2 categories. One was the genre family and child raising, and we ended up getting a gold award, the top award in that category, which is like mind blowing. And the other, we got a silver for our specific episode on dealing with miscarriage and grief as a dad. And the guest for that episode was a great guy named Kelly Jean-Philippe. And so we got both of those, and then one of the 2 Listener Choice Awards. So again, we're really grateful for those of you who voted, and just psyched to be a part of this thing and get the recognition that comes along with the Signal Awards.
Cheers to you, mate.
And back at you. Okay, give me the summary of this vacation, super high level, and I want to hear about it in more detail off the microphone, but I want to hear this bit on the microphone because it was a parent's vacation with no kids, and that's what's pertinent to modern dadhood.
This is true. A few of us from the neighborhood all went on a cruise together. We left our kids back at home safely. For me and Jamie, we had spent a couple of times as parents, like away for a night from our kids. Never this many nights. And also they spent a couple of the nights away from our house at their uncle's house, which was a new thing for them. So we were exploring some new territory. They were exploring some new territory. And it was lovely. Like, I definitely missed the kids, especially the longer that we were away. Like, I'm not going to lie, like right out of the gate, I was like, this is great. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to worry about getting up. I can stay up late. I can sleep in, all that stuff. And a few days in, I was kind of like, you know, who would really like this? The kids. And I was starting to miss them a little bit. But I mean, in short, highly recommend on occasion, if you can, get away, you know, like it was really nice to kind of recharge a little bit, spend a little bit of time just with my wife, kind of just not having to worry about the many, many little things that you always are having to worry about as a parent.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that you can, you know, the stuff that you carry with you just like constantly, you know, oh, I can't forget this snack or the kids' bags or, oh, it's soccer or, oh, they have rec tomorrow. All these little things that you're just constantly juggling back and forth in your mind. It was really nice to get a little bit of a break from that. That said, the next cruise, we're going to take the kids. Yeah,
they would have a blast. Yeah. But yes, I think you're right that in recommending that parents do that when they have the opportunity, because it's pretty rare to have the opportunity for a lot of us. Yeah, and
it's not an easy thing to do. I think to get to be able to get away, but plan for it, you know, and have some, like, it was really difficult for us to like secure the childcare for that period. That was the hardest part, you know, the decision making and what we're going to do and this and that, all the logistics of actually traveling. That was all the easy part. It was just securing the childcare bit that was really difficult for us.
So if you can make that happen, take advantage of it and do it as guilt-free as possible.
Yeah, you earned it. You earned it.
Well, listen, I want to get to that great chat with Kirk Martin. I don't want to make our listeners wait any longer. Listen to us bimbos ramble on about
just yap, just us over here
about
yapping.
The pina coladas that you were just drinking.
I can't even tell you how many pina coladas I had, man. It was just a steady flow.
Good for you. All right, listen, we're going to the Kirk Martin interview now.
Roll it.
Kirk Martin is the founder of Celebrate Calm, which is an innovating online resource for parents of strong-willed children. Kirk is a dad of one son, Casey, and he's the host of the immensely popular Calm Parenting podcast. He's America's Calm Coach. Kirk, I'm really pleased to have this chance to chat with you.
Adam, I'm psyched to be here. This is fun.
So first I've got to ask, because I know we're in different phases of parenting and in life, how is fatherhood going for you these days with Casey, who's now 30 or over 30?
Yeah, he's 32. You know what, Adam? It is really cool. I'm grateful because I always almost kind of messed it up with him when he was young by doing that kind of like real authoritarian approach that my dad did. But to see the arc of life, how challenging he was and immature I was when he was young, and now see it come full circle. Like today, we actually spent the day hiking together. And it's so neat to have adult conversations with your kid. He'll always be my kid, but he's a grown man now. So yeah, it's cool.
I feel like I'm just getting into that so my daughters are 11 and 8, and my 11-year-old can hold a very mature conversation, which is a lot of fun. And I know it's just like a matter of time before she's smarter than I am in just about every subject. But it's so funny because in some ways she's so mature. She can have great conversations with adults, and in other ways she is just an emotional roller coaster and can be so irrational. And so we're in this kind of funky phase where, she wants to be a babysitter, and she's great with younger kids and very responsible. But then at times she can just still melt down because homework is too hard, or she can't figure out how to solve a problem. And it's quite a thing.
She'll probably be awesome for other people. Like most of the kids we work with aren't always great for their parents, but they're really good for other people. It's like they're not, and this doesn't mean this isn't your daughter, but a lot of the kids we work with, they're not really great at the kid world, but they're really good in the adult world. And it's kind of counterintuitive, Adam. Like you're saying, like you look at her some days and it's like, wait, you're not acting very mature. But if you give her like adult responsibilities, it's like they step up, and they like that challenge, and they like feeling like I often recommend with older kids, like sometimes if they're struggling in school, take them out at like 9 o'clock on a weeknight or 8 o'clock, take them out to Buffalo Wild Wings or somewhere. And it makes them feel like an adult. And then they like step up. But then the next day she'll have a meltdown about something else because it's what they're kids. That's what they do.
It's what they do. And we've seen a lot of those traits in both of our daughters, that they really do rise to the occasion when it's called for. It's a very cool thing to see.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear how you got into this field of work. Like I was saying, there are times in my fatherhood journey where I have felt myself getting so frustrated, and at times just sort of snapping instinctually when there's much better ways that I could have handled situations. So really fascinating subject matter. But how did you kind of get into this line of work?
As usual, it was by accident, right? Like, so very quick, like our son came out of the womb with boxing gloves on. Like he's very strong-willed, definite opinions on things, doesn't care about consequences. So nothing ever worked, wants to do things his own way. Well, I was raised by a career military father. So all I knew was kind of like shut that down, fear and intimidation, very authoritarian approach. And it just wasn't working with Casey. He just didn't care. He was like, if you're going to double down on my consequence, well, I'm going to triple down on my resistance to you. And so I spent the first few years of his life trying to change him until I finally realized I was the one who needed to change. Because you know this, all the guys listening know this, there's only one person in life that you can really control. It's yourself. Yep. And it's a counterintuitive, but the quickest way to change your child's behavior is to first control your own. Because you've seen this when you get in those, you're tired, you're a good dad, but you snap.
Right.
Or you just come into the room and you come in with your guy energy, trying to shut it down, and then you lose it. And it's like, as soon as you lose control of your own emotions, your kids are in complete control of you. And something I realized, I was doing a podcast the other day, and I realized it was very confusing for Casey when he was young, because I was his dad, and in many ways he looked up to me. But then I would lose it over something small. And inside, he told me this later. He's like, Dad, it was confusing because I looked up to you like you're my hero, but here you are yelling at me and melting down as a grown man, and I didn't know how to really think about that. And so it wasn't until I finally kind of put all my effort into changing myself that our family changed. And then I started volunteering in a school because he always was getting kicked out of school. He wasn't great at it. And I was always really good at working with the kids who were a little bit odd and different, who didn't want to do things the normal way. So we ended up just because we wanted to help kids. It wasn't a business thing. I was working a full-time corporate job. We invited kids into our home. And the whole idea was on a Saturday morning, a bunch of these weird little kids are going to come to our house and play with Legos on the floor, and we're going to teach them self-regulation and impulse control. And then it just grew until I finally got fired at another job. And I was like, hey, why don't we do these camps with these kids? And I'll start speaking. And then it was kind of a back doorway. It was like our passion for helping the kids, but then it just grew because it was just an odd concept to have kids at your home rather than at a therapeutic office. So yeah, and it just kind of went from there.
And this was 25 years ago, right? And I think I was reading that you actually took out ads in the newspaper to advertise this service. Is that right?
You know what? We were living in this little neighborhood. So I took out a $7 ad in this little, the community newspaper, and it said ADHD camps. And then I think I misspelled something and had our phone number. And I told my wife, I was like, nobody's going to call. Like, who's going to do? Well, all of a sudden we start getting calls. And I'm like, uh-oh, we better organize this. Like, what are we actually doing? People are bringing their children to our house on Saturday morning. So it was very organic in how it developed. I ran one ad. That's all I've ever done advertising because I think the idea was very different, which is there's nothing wrong with your kids. They're just different. And instead of fighting their nature all the time, if we can work with their nature, we can help them be successful. And so we had people, it was weird, Adam. People were bringing their kids to our house and like dropping them off because they were kind of desperate, like, here, do something with these kids. And one summer we had these camps and we had a kid from Finland fly in. We took him to the pool and the lifeguards kept saying like, Mr. Martin, is that one of your kids? They're like, you got to tell him to put his swimsuit on because over there they swim naked. And I was like, dude, you're in America. You got to put. But anyway, the good thing is we never planned it. It just organically happened. And in many ways, the kids changed us more than we changed them. And that happens a lot in life, I think.
So you mentioned having to do this work on yourself before you could really impart change in the way that you were parenting. Who were you looking up to? What kinds of experts or thought leaders were you looking up to at that time and learning from? Or was this all something that you sort of created yourself and realized these are the things that I need to do in order to change and reframe situations and recenter myself and change how I approach handling these conflicts?
Can I be honest? I just dug down and I was like, okay, I have to change myself. What can I start doing? And one day I remember I had this thought. Everything that I'm doing now isn't working. I'm getting the exact opposite result. I rush my son, he goes more slowly. I come in and start yelling, he resists more. So I thought, well, I'll just do for the next week the opposite of what I would normally do. So I began walking into a room and instead of standing there kind of big guy energy, I just sit. Instead of yelling, I began asking questions. I began talking to Casey in many ways like I would talk to colleagues at work. Because this is what I love for men is you don't have to learn like therapy language, right? You don't have to do it how your wife does it. Like at work, Adam, if something at the office is going wrong, we don't walk around, sales are down, I'm going to have to fire everybody. Like nobody... and if you have a colleague or an employee who's messing up, you probably call them into your office and say, hey, I've seen your work before. It's really good. But this last project, not up to expectations. Hey, let's go for a walk and let's talk about this and problem solve. But then we like walk into our home and there are Legos on the floor and we're like, who left the Legos on the floor? I can't handle disorder. And like little things set us off. So it was weird. I began just treating Casey like he was a colleague at work in a sense, right? Like he didn't have the same power. He didn't get to choose what time he went to bed, you know. But I began talking to him saying, hey, Case, I noticed you were just yelling at mom and I'm curious what was going on that would lead you to yell at mom because you know you just lose your privileges when you do things like that. So what's going on? And when I started talking to him like that, he'd be like, Dad, you know, I had a bad day at school and then I came home and mom wanted to do homework right away and I didn't want to do. And I was like, okay, I get that. You're frustrated. Mom's trying to help you out. So how do we problem solve this? And so I actually began problem solving with him. And I was like, well, that works because Adam, nobody in like the way I was raised, discipline was just punishment. Your child doesn't do what you want. You send them to their room. They lose their screens, no play date, right? And then that's it. And I realized like there's no teaching going on. I'm just letting them know you can't do that. But your kids already know they can't do that. That's why they lie, right? Because it's like, you told me not to do that. I did it anyway. I broke the lamp. We weren't supposed to play with a ball in the basement. We broke the lamp. Hey, who broke the lamp? She did, right? I have no idea. Well, kids lie because they know what they did was wrong. What they're looking for is an adult to come in and say, all right, like with that example of like, okay, so you're a kid. You need to do some mischievous things. You need to push the limits. You've got a lot of energy. Well, how can we do that in a way that you don't break lamps in the basement? So it moved to this problem solving mode. And then it was just so much easier because I was like, I'm good at solving problems. I'm not good at disciplining because that just means like I'm going to yell at my kid and then my wife's going to be mad at me because I yelled too much. And I was like, what do you want from me? Right? You said we need you. You need my help. And she's like, not that kind of help. You make it worse. So anyway, it began to become more simple and I don't want it to be hard. I think for guys in some ways we have an advantage because this even matter of fact tone that we use in the real world with other guys and at work is really effective with strong-willed kids. Even matter-of-fact tone, all business, it de-escalates really well.
I just want to clarify, because a lot of your work, and you mentioned this earlier, has been with families where there are kids with ADHD, with OCD, with other neurodevelopmental disorders, but your content really is accessible for all parents who, want to improve how they handle these situations, right?
Yeah, because everybody's going to experience meltdowns and resistance and kids fighting over homework and bedtime and dinner time and all those things. So, yeah, I think everybody will find it pretty practical.
So how about a situation, you use the example of the Legos are on the floor again, and it's very easy to snap into frustration instinctually when you walk into a room and there's stuff all over the floor. And every day for the last 5 years, you've asked your kid to not leave stuff all over the floor. And now they're 10 years old or they're 13 years old, old enough to be able to commit these ideas to memory. So this I forgot doesn't really apply anymore. What kind of conversation do you have then? So, for example, let's say one of my daughters, her room is constantly a mess, and we always ask her to pick it up. Let's just get your clothes into the laundry, just put things on shelves. We're trying to all respect this home that we live in together, so let's keep it relatively tidy and organized. But when there's a pattern of that not happening, what kind of questions could I be asking her? It's why do you allow your room to be in disarray? I mean, I think her answer would be because it's my room and I don't really care.
Well, that would be a good answer. I think in that case, and I don't know your daughter, I know with our son, his room was a mess and he was an ADHD kid. So not an excuse like ADHD people can't be clean, but we knew it wasn't a strong suit for him.
Sure.
So I think if you go in and be like, what it would sound like to him is like, Case, I've been telling you this for years. Like, why can't you clean your room? Like, what do you like living? Do you like living in a pigsty? Right? Like the typical. I think in that case, what I see is, okay, that's for me, a tools issue that he needs some different tools in order to be successful in that area, right? It's kind of like if you had a coworker who just really isn't good at a certain task. You can ask them all day long, and their honest answer is, I'm not good at that. Mm-hmm. Show me how to do that differently. So in this case, and I know guys will be like, well, that's weak. And I'm like, that's okay. But what I would do with your daughter is say, hey, honey, here's what we're going to do. 3 days a week or 2 days a week. Maybe you have a code word, or let's just say, and whatever, let's say she loves Taylor Swift. Okay. And so you can say, okay, here's what we're going to do. 3 nights a week, I'm going to come in. We're going to play some T Swift songs, and you can choose 1 song, 2 songs. So she can say, Dad, it's a 2-song cleaning night. And you play some music and you clean with her. You know what I would do? I would almost take a couple pictures of it pre-clean, and they maybe even have her videotape. This will sound weak, but have her videotape you cleaning and kind of organizing the room. And maybe even make like a 3-minute video of like, and they can do it like in time lapse, because a lot of our kids, they have these very, very busy brains. And so they're kind of chaotic in their brains. They don't have that natural instinct for how to like organize things. You almost have to show them. But you've got 2 daughters. Like, I don't want to come in like too heavy. Like, how are you ever going to be successful in life if you can't keep things organized? What are you going to do at the office when you can't find the file folder? Like, it's like, she's like, I'm 11, I'm 8. Like, chill, Dad. But if you were to come in and you play some music, because music is good to work to, because there's rhythm in music, and you do like a time-lapse video and take a couple pictures, now she has visuals to know, oh, this is what it looks like. And you wouldn't go after like completely spotless. You would go after tidy, basically even organized messes of piles, because that's at least, I would start there, get a success. And the deeper part for me is bonding with your daughter in an area of her weakness, because she's not good at that. And if Dad's always coming in, honey, how many times do I have to tell you? What are we going to do for you? That becomes her childhood. And then when she's having issues in another area, she's not going to come to you. But if she knows, because kids are smart, they're going to be like, my dad is kind of a neat freak. My dad needs things like this, but he's patient with me in an area of my weakness. See, there's trust there, and you still get it done. Now, here's the hard part. And I know parents are going to be like, well, I do most of the cleaning. You will be. You will the first few times. Adam's going to be cleaning up his daughter's bedroom the first few times.
Oh, don't worry, Kirk. He already does most of the time.
Yes. So, but this way you're doing it together. Yeah. And then when she makes progress, you can walk by some nights and say, wow, that looks really good. Yeah. Inside, you're probably like, oh, there are like 3 other things you could do to make it better.
Yeah.
But, and I'll end it on this. That part is, they're kids. And I know this sounds like weakness, but the older I get, the more I think back and I'm like, what, did we have kids and think they were going to go through the first 18 years of their lives and always make good choices? I mean, you have dads listening. What were we like when we were 11 and 14? We were idiots.
Yep.
We were idiots when we were 25, right? So, and we all turned out okay. So I just encourage moms and dads, but like, relax a little bit with this stuff and don't project into the future especially Adam, with you, with your daughters, like, and with sons, but like bond with them over these things. And then in the teen years, they're going to be like, Dad, can I talk to you about this boy at school? And I promise you that'll be like worth 83 times you helped clean her room when she comes to you and says, I'm vulnerable right now and I need my dad's help. That'll make it all worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I love the notion of having them own this thing, putting on the music, even making it an adventure and giving them some stake in this makes total sense to me. I am curious, you said maybe even have my daughter film me picking up her room. What's the significance of that particular part of it?
I think that's what you just said. There's a little bit of ownership instead of, I don't want parents to hear it as weakness because I think it's strength. Instead of dad or mom coming in, standing in the bedroom doorway, young lady, this room will be cleaned up. When I get back in 15 minutes, it's either cleaned up or else. And a lot of our kids are going to be like, or else what? Right? And then you're going to come up with something. They don't care. In this, it's like, in a sense, you're humbling yourself and you're leading. Hey, I'll take the lead on this. Mm-hmm. I'll show you how to do this. And instead of you directing, she's kind of directing. And who knows, with strong-willed kids, they may, like our son would have said, like, Dad, you missed something. You missed something over there. And inside I'd be flipping him off. But then I'm like, you know what, you're right. Because it's a teaching opportunity. I don't know why I said that actually, but I like that visual.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Of her watching you do it and you doing something to actually, in a sense, serve her and show her. I'll tell you a cool thing, Adam. So Casey's 32 now. We did this 3-week father-son hiking trip, which he organized. And it was really fascinating to watch. He now is the one who often serves me because I have a fear of heights. And like even the hike today, we had to hike up through snow. He knows I'm not really great in snow. And he's like, Dad, just follow. This almost makes me cry in a way. Today he was like, Dad, follow my footprints. He was kicking in spaces for me to step because he knows I'm not as confident, partly because I'm old. And now you get to see the reverse come where my son is now serving me. And in some ways, he's more patient with me than I was with him when he was a kid. And it's very, very humbling to watch that.
Wow. Yeah. It really reverses the roles there. And it also, again, back to the cleaning the room example, it kind of puts you on an even playing field with them. It disrupts that notion of I have authority over you, even though I do because I'm the parent. It's like we're equals in this, which is interesting. And that kind of segues into a scenario that I wanted to run by you because my wife and I will do this sometimes. Again, my daughters are now 8 and 11, so they're a little older. And when one of them says, well, why did you handle this? Why did you treat me this way, but you treated her this way in a similar situation? And, a lot of times our answers are, well, you're different people, you're different ages. When you were 3 years younger, we would have handled this situation differently. But there are times when they call us on things and we've messed up. We've made a bad decision, an unfair decision, maybe not even on purpose. And in those situations, I found myself lately saying, you know what, like, Mommy and I are just people and we're doing our best and we're not experts at parenting and we love you and we make decisions that we feel are the best for you. And every situation is taken on a case by case basis. And sometimes we screw up and I'm really sorry for that. And, I'll try to do better next time. And what do you think about that kind of position?
So I liked with Casey, what I would say at times when he would bring stuff like that up is, oh yeah, so here's what happened. I was tired that night. I was rushed home from work and I snapped at you. And that's on me. I messed up. I was overreactive. I reacted the wrong way and I apologize. It's just simple honesty, right? It doesn't have to be like, I'm so sorry that I did, it's not
Sure.
that. It's just more of an acknowledgement of, oh yeah, you know why I handled it that way? Because one of my triggers, because one of my favorite things in the home is to kind of replace that behavior chart. A lot of times we have, people do behavior charts that don't really work. And so I like to have like a trigger board. I'd rather, like for your family, you, your wife, and your two daughters, get a whiteboard and list what your triggers are in life. Because behavior is just changing outward behavior. All outward behavior is just a manifestation of something that's going on inside. And so the things that mess us up, Adam, you and I and all men, are we get triggered by things, right? And a lot of it's like from childhood. Like when Casey would dawdle and move slowly, instant trigger for me.
Yeah.
My dad's career military. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. And so you have all this stuff going through your head of like, why is my son late? Why isn't he on time? Is that disrespect toward me? How's he going to be successful in life if he doesn't show up for time on meetings? And then you like recalibrate and you're like, he's 6, right? But we do those. And so I'd rather work through as a family instead of like your behavior. It's like, well, what triggers you? And then you can kind of help each other. Your kids will know instantly. Oh, dad gets triggered when he walks in the house and there's things on the floor. Mom gets triggered when whatever it is. And then you talk to your kids and you'll be like, what are your triggers? Well, I get triggered. And you're normalizing, I hate to say it like this, but you're normalizing what you said. Like, we're just people. We're flawed people. And so we're normalizing. We all have triggers. But one of our family ethos is we're always growing and we're always getting better at things. So when I didn't handle that situation well, yeah, that was my issue. That's not yours. So if you want to go, what you did was perfectly great. And then the next level is just saying, okay, next time this happens in our home, what could I do differently? What could you do differently? Now that's way better than you need to change your attitude. Now it's like, okay, because your kids are really insightful. And I'm not being funny with this, but girls are usually more mature than boys. And so your daughters are going to be like, Dad, we know your trigger and what we've noticed. And like your kids know when you're fighting with your spouse, they can feel those times where you're irritated at each other.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, you're not saying like, well, I have this deep issue from childhood. So you're not bringing up scary stuff. You're just saying, hey, have you ever noticed, like with Casey, have you ever noticed that when we're running late, I pressure you? And when I would bring that up, he'd be like, yeah, I can feel it. You start like talking very quickly, Dad, and then pushing me. And then what I know is I won't move quickly enough for you, and then you'll start yelling at me. So I actually just stop moving altogether. Like Casey told me that once, and I was like, oh. So that's why I often say, like, your kids aren't rejecting your authority. They're rejecting your anxiety. And so that helps reframe it from, my son wasn't really rejecting my authority. Like, I'm more into like leadership. I don't need to like assert my authority. If I'm leading and being honest, then kids are going to look up to me, right? Like your daughters do. Yep. So yeah, I'd rather work on your triggers, but I think being open about that is utterly fantastic.
I think the idea of a trigger board is utterly fantastic, and it's something that we'll implement in our home right away. I think that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, because I'm older now, and what I realize is the things that aren't good in my life are usually because of things I get triggered by, right? And so it's not like lack of schooling, lack of education. It's usually internal things. And we all have our triggers. So like maybe one of your daughters, a trigger is, hey, when plans change at the last minute, right? What I'm doing is saying, okay, Case, some kids it's changes in plans, new experiences because they struggle with anxiety. Well, instead of dismissing them like, hey, oh, it's a new thing, big deal, you can do it. I can say, so here's what you're going to struggle with in life. new experiences. Why? Because you're going to someplace new that you've never been. It's all the unknowns. You don't know the instructor. You don't know what the other kids are going to be like. You don't even know if you're going to be good at the activity. So it makes sense to me that your stomach would be upset and you don't want to go to this new class. It makes sense to me. And so, Casey, for the rest of your life, new experiences, you will always feel hesitant to do it. What I want you to know is that's normal, because it is weird to go to new things, but here's how you overcome that trigger. And so the gift to your kids is you're teaching them like years ahead of time of, hey, when you're 28, here's the situation you're going to be in. This is your natural reaction. It doesn't go well. So here are 2 or 3 things you could do differently. I wish rather than going to college, someone would have just taught me about all my triggers and then an action plan for each one of them. So for men, well, I'm overly reactive. Well, that's like all of us. Okay, so simple thing is sit down. It's really hard to yell at your kids when you're sitting down with your legs crossed. You feel stupid, right? Like when I walk into a room like this, I feel like yelling. But if I sit down, now I'm probably going to talk and ask questions, and I can sit anywhere. So I don't like, for men especially, I think we're pretty simple creatures. Rather than like, okay, remember these 8 steps the next time you get upset. And says like, just sit and don't say anything. And things will probably work out better if you stop trying to fix that sibling fight and let them fix it. So anyway, it's kind of cool.
I mean, it just gets me thinking about how easy it is to forget or overlook that all of our actions and our words can have such a profound impact on our kids. Like, it's easy to get into this groove where it's like, well, yeah, I live in my house with my 3 roommates. You know, I love them. They're my family. I would do anything for them. But like, you know, we're all just kind of living our lives. But when you actually consider your actions, the way that you're speaking to them, your body language, the way that you interact with your partner, you know, as the parents, it all shapes who they are. And I just love the idea of sitting and talking to them as an equal, you know, and just being open and transparent and treating them like adults in some way. I mean, I think the hardest thing to remember in situations like that is that they don't have the life experience that your colleagues at work do. And so there's a lot of context that they haven't collected yet. But I love that. I think that that's wonderful. I did want to ask about your podcast, because you have well over 500 episodes now, dating back to, I think, 2017. And I would love to hear how you got into this medium.
You know, so we used to, way back in the day, we were traveling a lot. So we would go to speak at schools, at churches, conferences, all of that. And then when we were on the road, I think, Adam, it was like in 2008, I think there's something called Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
It was before the word podcast was out. So we were living in Nashville at the time, and I would just start recording these episodes, and like 8 people listened. It was just this new, it was before like Joe Rogan, before it kind of all blew up. And then I think we just naturally, you know, from being on the road, I have a lot of stories. We have all these kids that we had in our home. So I have stories. And so I try to keep it to about 22 minutes. So I try to focus on 1 or 2 things parents can walk away with and try that week, right? Okay, this week, when your child talks back to you, try this phrase. And for me, I don't know, I love doing it. And I like do it from this is our 2nd bedroom. So I don't have like a podcast studio or anything, but it's a ton of fun. And I find now that I actually learn as I speak. So there are times on the podcast where an idea hits me and I just roll with it. And that's the best part of it, more than like, I usually have a little bit of an outline. But anyway, that's how we got into it. And then it just grew. And I think it's because I'm a guy in the parenting space, and most of the other people are female psychologists who were all really good. But I know a lot of men listen to our podcast because they get to hear like a guy's voice and you don't have to talk like a therapist or like your wife. And so a lot of men write and they're like, I can totally relate to that. And I'm like, good, because we're men. Like, this is kind of what we do, a lot of us. So yeah, it's been a cool thing, adventure in a way.
Yeah, and it's obviously a very popular podcast. Do you have an episode that you found has been the most popular, that people bring up to you frequently and say, this, your advice here, your guidance has really changed my relationship with my kid?
You know what? There was the one, I did this one on a time when Casey was about 9 or 10, and I told him he had to go outside and rake the leaves, and he didn't. And it was actually a little bit longer podcast because I kind of took through that day when that night when he refused to rake the leaves, how it played out the next day, and the roller coaster of emotions of kind of like, why isn't my son doing this? And then he was like outright defiant toward me. And it's like, how do you process that without like hurting your child, right? Like, right. But you know what I mean? Like, you're so frustrated at your kids. And so I think what parents related to was the ups and downs of it, and how you get triggered and then you calm down, but then you get triggered again. It's hard. Parenting, to me, parenting and marriage are way harder than any job I've ever had.
So you sell programs through your website. You've published books, right? Did you foresee having this kind of success in the field of education and child raising?
No, that's probably why it worked, Adam, because I didn't plan it out. And that's what I found in life. If I used to, when I was in the corporate world, I was like, I want to have my own business. And I tried all these different things and they all failed. And this was kind of organic of like, hey, let's just bring some kids into our house, see how it goes. And then you get invited to speak. And when you're speaking, you're telling stories. And that just made podcasting really easy as a natural step. And in the corporate world, I had to do presentations. I'm super grateful because I don't think I could go back. I couldn't create it from scratch how it happened. Like, even on Instagram, 2 years ago, I told my family, I will never be on Instagram. I hate Instagram. I hate social media. It's stupid. And so my son's like, Dad, you got to be there. So we had a couple thousand followers. We're in Arizona hiking. And so I started doing my videos on our hikes because it gives me cool backdrop. And so I did this video, and it was on video games, and it was actually not even good. I posted, for some reason, it was really controversial. We went from like 13,000 followers to 500,000 in a matter of months. And now we're like at 970. So my son is always like, introduces me to his friends. He's like, here's my dad, the influencer. And it's like, but that wasn't planned. It just kind of happened. And I'm grateful for that, because then it's not like my own, like some big plan. It just kind of organically happened.
Well, it's a very cool thing. I think it's so important for men to be thinking and talking about this stuff and learning about this stuff. Our approach on this show is, my co-host Mark and I we always say we're not experts on fatherhood. We just love talking about it and learning about it and bringing in guests whose experiences are different from our own so that we can compare and contrast and gain new perspective from their fatherhood experiences. Right. So it's a very different approach, but I think the more people out there celebrating, in present, engaged, involved fatherhood, the better. And thank you for doing it the way that you do it. Clearly, you have influenced so many people. And what you're sharing is, you say a lot that it may be counterintuitive, and maybe that's true in some cases, but it's also so logical. I think that for me, as I think about implementing some of these things into my parenting style, I think that the challenge is just going to be, it's all sort of creating new habits, right? How do you interrupt the way that you've done something for the last 10 plus years and work in this new thing. So I guess maybe for listeners, what would you say is the number one most important thing that a parent can hold on to and sort of etch into their memory so that when they do have the next conflict with their kid, their child is losing their mind over something, being totally irrational, what would you say is like the one most important thing to take away and make sure that they implement when that happens?
I think it's the connection part, right? Of like, realize, don't take it personally. Your child's freaking out on the ground. And now it's like, hey, I can tell you're frustrated. Listen, I'm going to go outside. If you want to grab the football and play catch, I'm going to dump some Legos out on the floor. When you're ready, if you want to come build with me, man, I could really use your help. So I don't even really address that meltdown in the moment. I'd say maybe it's leading, Adam. Maybe it's leading of like, oh, I just remembered Saturday we're going fishing. Hey, if you want to meet me out in the garage, why don't we organize the fishing lures? So I'm not trying to fix them in the moment. I'm leading them to a different place. With my son, my go-to was, hey, I can tell, because he had an attitude a lot. And I'd be like, something's going on. So why don't you grab some chips and I'll grab some salsa. I'll meet you out on the deck. I'll help you with whatever you're struggling with. So maybe it's putting on the hat as a guy, especially. I'm chief problem solver of my home. I'm just here to problem solve. I'm not going to take it personally because they're kids. I was an idiot kid. They're just being a kid. They're filled with drama. I'm not doing drama. Like, if you want to do that as your thing of like, I'm like, for your daughters through their teen years, I'm going to be the dad in the neighborhood who does not do drama. My daughters are going to do drama because that's what teenagers do. I'm going to be the one who's like, I've been there. I've seen it.
Yep.
It's just so cool. And I just encourage dads with this. Your impact is, I'll just say it. I think a dad's impact is immeasurable. I work with a lot of men who have dad issues and it affects them their whole lives. They never, ever, ever got the affirmation of their dad. A lot of doctors, and they're always looking for it, always looking for it. And so if you could only do one thing this week, it would be every time you see one of your kids, just affirm them for something well that they're doing. Doesn't mean you can't address the other thing, but just walk in and say, honey, I just noticed that you did that. Man, that shows me you're growing up. And then walk away. And inside you can think, but there's 14 other things that they're not doing well. But I promise you, if you will affirm what they're doing well already without adding but, they will work very hard for you. There's something I believe hardwired into kids. And this isn't meant to be sexist, but moms are usually very loving and nurturing. Dads, not always. So if you get a dad who's kind of nurturing like that and who is affirming, your kids, my son craved my affirmation. And when they get that, man, it is very, very powerful. You're going to raise a confident kid. By the way, if you have daughters, you want to be the one who's walking in and saying, like how you handled that. You're beautiful, because you don't want them seeking that from teenage boys, because we know what teenage boys are like. So anyway, but men, thank you for the hard work you're doing to break the patterns. Most of you didn't have a good dad, probably. I didn't. And yet you're breaking that pattern. It is hugely important. So thank you for that.
Dads and moms listening, I would encourage you to go to celebratecalm.com and follow Kirk on all the social media platforms. They will be linked in our episode notes. Kirk, this has really been an enlightening chat, and I would love to stay in touch. I'm enjoying your podcast. Thank you so much for all you do, and thanks for making time to chat with me today.
I appreciate it, Adam. Keep up the good work, man.
Let's just each say something nice about ourselves, as it relates to parenting.
Like in lieu of a recurring segment?
Yeah, let's just be kind to ourselves. Like, let's give ourselves like a compliment. Because I don't ever do that.
Sure.
In fact, sometimes I just walk around going, idiot, God, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?
Okay, well, yeah. Would you like to go first?
Nah, dude, I'm an idiot.
All right.
Do that.
Here we go. I find that this is not an every time thing, but I think I'm pretty decent at being patient when my kids are really pushing my buttons.
That's great.
Just taking a beat, trying to recenter yourself and consider how you're going to respond to the situation. I think I do pretty well with that most of the time. How about you?
Yeah.
Give yourself a little pat on the back. This was your idea.
This was your idea. You idiot. I think that I'm pretty good at if I'm running around and doing stuff. Maybe I'm just getting home from work, or it's the weekend and I'm kind of doing one thing to the next. And if one of the kids comes up and says, Dad, do X with me.
Your kids are trying to get you to do ecstasy, dude.
XYZ, do XYZ with me, or ABC.
Dad,
maybe.
try Molly with me.
Like go play basketball with me, which is something that happens often very early in the morning when the kids are already awake and have had their breakfast. And I'm still only halfway through my first cup of coffee, hands still shaking. I think I'm pretty good at hearing that and realizing here's a moment where I can connect with one of my kids and take that opportunity, because I think I've gotten to the point where I can realize in an instant, like, oh, that kind of request is not going to come all that often, as they get older.
Yep.
So if it means the last thing I want to do is get down on the ground and play some pretend thing with like half a dozen broken pieces of Legos, like, damn it, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And I'm going to have a good time doing it.
That's an important one. That's a great one. Good job for saying yes to things.
Good job for that one time when you said yes. Hey, good. Hold on. You're a good dad.
You are a good dad. And you know what? I'm sure that most of our listeners.
That's right.
Are good dads.
Pat yourselves right on the back.
Mark, I think we should close it out by saying, again, that all of our episodes are found on wherever podcasts can be listened to.
Spotify.
We would, on Spotify, that's right, or Apple Podcasts, or Hark Audio, or Pocket Casts, or
Kirk Pod.
Calm Pod. Highly recommend subscribing to the Calm Parenting Podcast.
Well, you can find us out there on the internets, at the Instagram and the Facebook and the TikTok and all of that stuff. YouTube. You can reach out to us by emailing us at heydadhood@moderndadhood.com. There's also a form on the website, on the aforementioned website.
Thank you to Casper Baby Pants and Spencer Albee for the music that's heard in Modern Dadhood. Thank you to Kirk Martin for the wonderful chat. I really hope to stay in touch and build that relationship. Mark, check it. Who would you like to thank?
Thank you for listening.